Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Caresify Spotlight series, part of Caresify Health Talks, where we shine a light on caregiving, community health, and the stories that impact families every day. I'm your host, Angel Bell, CDP and Director at Caresify Home Care. Today, we're talking about an issue that affects millions of older adults across the country: the rise of sophisticated scams targeting seniors. Joining me is someone who works tirelessly to protect vulnerable individuals. Joyce Petrowski, founder and board president of Rose Advocacy. Joyce, thank you for being here. If you'd like, take a moment to welcome the audience.
Well, thank you, Angel. Thank you for inviting me, and I'm glad to be here today to share this valuable information. As you said, I am the founder of Rose Advocacy for short. That's the website, roseadvocacy.org. And our whole program is scam prevention through education, specifically geared towards the older adults.
Thank you, Joyce. Scams seem to be so evolving every single day. What are some of the newest, most surprising scams you've seen targeting older adults this year? And how are these scams managing to be sound and so convincing?
So, I haven't heard of any like brand new scams other than our community outreach specialist. He actually just recently wrote an article for a publication, and I was reviewing it, and he had actually heard this from somebody, and he's sharing it, and nothing against the person that fell victim, no judgment. It was more of giving people an idea as to how scammers are evolving and how good they are at getting you to believe the story. And this one revolved around sending money to someone, and because they were in outer space and they were running out of oxygen. And normally people are going to look at that and go, how could anyone fall victim to that? But you have to understand the scammers are that good at convincing you through your emotions that that is necessary reason why they need the money. And you're thinking through your emotion. You're not thinking rationally, like, that makes no sense whatsoever, right? You're thinking through the emotion. You've already established a connection with this person. And so you want to do whatever to help this person. And I think the scammer probably, it wasn't too long ago, we heard about the two astronauts that were, and I'm going to say stuck in quotes because I don't know the whole story behind it, but they were up there for like an additional 9 months or something like that. I think they used that as kind of a reasoning because it had been in the news. And so people had heard about it. And so it made it more believable to them. But it's all emotions. There's still those regular ones like the tech support where they get control of your computer, investing, somebody's in trouble, a family member, you need to help them out. And, you're lonely. You might have lost your partner or your spouse, and now you've got this new love interest, right? So those are all still, they're there every year, unfortunately. The scammers might tweak the reasons or the excuses, but they are so good at getting you to believe what they want and keeping you in that emotional state. So,
I see. And technology has made it easier than ever for scammers to mimic voices and create fake messages. What advice do you have for seniors who might receive a text or an email or a phone call that sounds like it came from a family member or even from Medicare?
yeah, you're right. That's artificial intelligence. And that is something that we talk about in our presentations. And when we update our resource packet in March, we update it twice a year. We're going to have more information on artificial intelligence. But, with any new technology, it comes out for good. scammers have access to it and they find ways to manipulate it, to use it to their advantage. And so, yes, they only need a short clip of someone's voice and they can have the technology to make that voice say whatever they want. Um, so, the best thing that someone can do is pause, stop, think about the situation. And I understand that's hard to do, especially if they've already got you, in this instance, scared that a family member is in trouble. But the having your trusted person that you can talk to about anything, because sometimes just by you saying it out loud and you hear yourself say it, your mind flips and all of a sudden you're like, oh, well, that doesn't make sense. Or sometimes you're still in that emotional state and it takes your trusted person to start asking you questions, and say, well, you have Johnny's phone number. Let's call him and find out what's going on. Let's verify the situation before we can trust that it's true. And, when I said the first thing is stop and take a pause, um, and that can be very difficult if you're in that emotional state. All your emotion is telling you, I need to do this transaction to get my loved one out of trouble. But having reoccurring information about scams on a regular basis, what that does is it helps make scam prevention a habit. So when you are contacted, you're more likely to think scam prevention, what do I need to do?
Yeah, that makes sense. Older adults want to stay independent when managing their finances. What are the few simple but powerful steps they can take right now to protect their money, their personal information from fraud?
Your personal information, unfortunately, and it's different for everybody, but a little bit of it, some of it, a lot of it, it's out there. Hacks and breaches, they happen all the time. And we talk about this again in our presentations. You can't control the hacks and breaches that are going on, but you can control the information that you are giving to these companies. And if you don't understand why they're asking for a piece of information, ask them the question and make sure you understand it before you just fill it out on a form, because it's your personal information. Um, and be careful what you do online, right? Cookies, right? Those are the big things. Whenever you get on a website, most of them now at the bottom, usually they'll have we track cookies, and some of them will say accept all, reject all, manage. Well, just hit reject all. If it says manage, go in and make sure all of the cookies are turned off except for strictly necessary. Now, because you don't want them tracking what you're doing, because then they could sell that to advertisers, to then all of a sudden you start getting all these emails from these companies that you've never subscribed to. But it's because cookies have been put on because of the website you were on and they've been tracking what you've been doing. Um, So, and then, just be careful of what information you're sharing, especially on social media. Something that seems really innocent could have a major effect, right? A lot of people share information, but then it's like, well, was that one of the security questions that I have for my bank account? So now somebody knows the answer to a security question, right? So you got to be careful. And there's no law out there that says you have to be truthful on those security questions. Make up an answer, but you're going to have it someplace, because you're not going to be able to remember, something that's not true, what you put down. So you're going to have to keep track of it. As far as financial information or finances and stuff like that, the first thing is I would have every financial account should have a totally separate login password, totally separate. It's not reused on any other account,
Mm.
because if it's reused and they get into the one account and it's also on your bank account, they're going to get into your bank account. So don't reuse that password on any reuse it on any other accounts, any other financial accounts. It should be strong, unique password. Um, the other thing you can do is passkeys, which is biometric information. Those are becoming more prevalent now. A lot of companies, when you log on, they will give you the option to have a passkey instead of a password. And that's usually a facial scan, a fingerprint. And security professionals have said, security experts have said that that is more secure than using passwords because we reuse passwords. Some older adults like to write them down, but then that notebook is not kept secure, so anybody that's in the house can take pictures of it. Um, and um, shoot, I had something in my head and it went right out. But anyways, oh, I was just reading an article this morning that the most used passwords again for 2025, password 123, and some variation of that password, whether the company has had that as a default password when you first sign up with them, but then you don't go in and change it. Or the company doesn't make it like the first time you log in, doesn't prompt you, hey, you have to change your password before you can go any further in here. But a lot of people still have that. And that's basically like just giving someone the keys to your house and your car and say, come in whenever you want, do whatever you want. Um, and then more information on finances. All financial companies have multi-factor authentication. Sometimes it's not prompted when you set the account up. You have to go into your privacy and settings and enable it. And then you have to choose how you want to receive the code. I will tell you that if you get it emailed or texted, those codes are usually good for like 5 minutes. So it gives the scammer more of an opportunity to try to convince you to give your code to them. For instance, they'll impersonate the bank, scare you that there's stuff going on fraudulent with your account. We need to protect it. Um, but I need to verify I'm talking to you. And so you have multi-factor authentication on your account. So I'm going to send you a code and you need to read it back to me to verify yourself. But it's really the scammer and you give them the code. Now they're in your account. They've changed your login. You're locked out. And meanwhile, they're transferring money out of your account. So understanding that even though you have that enabled, it's confidential information. The other thing you can do is you can set daily limits on how much can be taken out of your account at an ATM. You can also talk to your bank. If you don't use the wire transfer function at all, you could ask them, can I just take that off my account? And if they won't, maybe say, can I put a limit? I only want to be able to have $100 or $500 wire transferred out of my account. But in addition, I want alerts. I want to know whenever there's a wire transfer, and I want you to email me. I want to know every ATM transaction, and put those alerts on there. Those alerts aren't going to prevent it from happening, but it lets you know right away what is going on. So then you can mitigate the damages with it. And then, just ask the bank, is there any other security measures that I can have on my account? Some banks, some financial brokerage accounts will allow you to have a like a safe word, a trust word, phrase, whatever it is. And even if they're talking to you, you have to give them that to verify. But the nice thing is, I've had some people tell me, they've gotten the phone call and it was really somebody impersonating that it was a banker, a stockbroker, whoever it was, but it was from a company that they had accounts with. And the person said, okay, well, what's my safe word? And they just went, they didn't have it. So they hung up on them, right? So that's another option as well. But, every bank, every brokerage account, all that stuff, they're all different companies. And so just talk to them and secure your accounts as much as possible. The other thing is if you like to use Venmo and Zelle, because those are attached directly to your bank accounts, um, I personally don't use them because I don't want another way that someone can get into my account, but I know it's convenient and some people want to use it. We're not here to say don't, but just know that that's another way. And I've had some people say, well, what I do is I have a totally separate account and I only keep a little bit of money in it, and it is not attached to any of my other accounts, meaning that if you go to log on to your account, you're only going to see that one account. You don't see all your other ones. So if a criminal was able to access that bank account through Venmo, Zelle, whatever, they only have access to that small amount and they can't go into your other accounts. So that's another option as well. And I mean, but I think Zelle, and I don't know about Venmo. I've not heard a lot about them, but I know Zelle had some issues number of years ago. But they have since had some really robust security measures, but nothing is foolproof, right? Nothing is foolproof. So you have to protect yourself. That was a long-winded answer.
That's wonderful. That answer just gave me a lot to think about as well, because, we are running our daily lives and,
Mhm.
we don't think about these things, and we really, really need somebody like you sharing this information to us and educating us because, wow, I'm learning things that are scary, but yet very informative and will
Right.
help me make better decisions about
Exactly.
protecting myself. So this is all great information.
Well, thank you.
So scammers often use fear tactics, urgency, or emotional pressure, like claiming a grandchild is in trouble or saying a bill is overdue.
Hmm.
What red flags should seniors listen for when they get these kinds of calls or messages?
So that's that's hard, like the red flags, because scammers constantly change their techniques. And now with AI, and that voice sounds exactly like your family member, your grandchild, or the scammer might have infiltrated your family member's phone. We do a lot with our mobile phones, right? And they're able to see in the background how that person does their conversations. And so now this conversation, even though it's from a scammer, sounds like a normal conversation that you would have with that family member. So it's having somebody be able to look for red flags is hard because they change them all the time, like I said. The best thing in my mind to do is just know that if it's urgent, nothing should be that urgent, especially when you're sending money. You should always have time to stop and think. But like you said, they're going to scare you, right? Your grandchild is in Mexico in jail, and he's going to get hurt. He's in Venezuela in jail. I say that because you hear about Venezuela on the news all the time. But uh, is to really take that pause and stop and think. And whether you need to go talk to your trusted person or you're like, okay, I know what to do. I'm going to call my grandchild and find out what's going on. You're not going to say to the person, well, I'm going to, if you say, I'm going to call my grandchild, they're going to be like, well, I changed my phone number. Here's my new phone number. That's something they could say. And people change phone numbers. And so then you're just calling the scammer back, but it sounds like your grandchild. Well, no, you have their contact in your phone. You call them, you verify what's going on before you send any money. If you can't get a hold of them, some people aren't allowed to have their phones with them while they're at work. Or, some people also won't have their phones available while they're driving, which is a very good, habit to get into. Um, Call their parents, call their siblings, but verify the situation before you can even begin to trust. Because scammers get you into your emotional state. They know how to keep you in that emotional state. That's why they stay on the phone with you. And don't be afraid to hang up. If they're not letting you off the phone, don't be afraid. I know we've all been taught it's rude to hang up on people. Well, it's rude that they're trying to take all your money. Hang up on them. Don't worry about it. hang up on them. You don't have to say goodbye. If you want to say goodbye, you can, but hang up on them. They will try their best to keep you on the phone. You hang up, they're going to call you right back. Just don't answer. And it could get frustrating. You might have to, excuse me, you might have to put your phone aside for a few minutes and walk around, whatever, but verify the situation. We can't um, stress that enough. There was that whole trust but verify back in the 80s, and we could do that. We have to flip it around now. We have to verify before we can even begin to trust.
This again is just so helpful in understanding the big picture. Families and caregivers play such an important role in protecting seniors.
Mhm.
How can loved ones check in about scams and financial safety? How do they do that without seniors feeling judged or they feel like they're losing independence?
That's a very good question. I think a lot of people automatically jump to, well, don't click on that link. Don't, don't respond to that text. Don't call that number back. Don't answer the phone if you don't know who it is. That's a lot of negativity. That's a lot of don'ts, right? So we like to take the approach of weave scam prevention into regular conversations. Now, does that mean you need to call your loved one every single day and have a conversation about scams? No. But if you usually go visit them on the weekend, sign up for our newsletters. And every Tuesday morning, you'll get a Tuesday tip. And that right there will give you a conversation starter. And it doesn't have to be where you are um, making your loved one feel defensive, like they're thinking that you're trying to say that they're doing something wrong they're not supposed to be doing. You just conversation starter. Wow, look at this information. I get this tip every Tuesday, and look what this week's was. I never thought about this, and you could also Google it online. If you're thinking of a specific scam you want to talk about, Google the scam online. You most likely will find articles or maybe even videos from victims that have, or people that have fallen victim to those scams, talking about their experience. And just having that, and just saying, oh my gosh, this person, I feel so bad. They actually thought they were going to marry Keanu Reeves. And they lost $100,000, and they put a line of credit on their house, and now they're having to pay that line of it's just it's conversation starters, because the more we hear something, the more we talk about it in a positive way, less scary way, the more it becomes a habit, the more it's in the back of your mind. And then your loved one's going to look, you can also say to them, you can ask me anything, right? If you get contacted, if you happen to get this email or you happen to get this text, let me know, forward it to me, call me, let's talk about it before we do anything. Because if it's legitimate, right, you'll have time. So, and just make it more positive, make it more, and don't just try to avoid always saying, don't do this, don't do that, don't do this, don't do that. Because it turns people off. You have to put yourself in their shoes and say, if one of your kids was looking at you and saying, don't do this, don't do that, don't do this. I know, I think to myself, well, I was in kindergarten once. It was a very long
Yeah.
time ago. And I got chastised by the teacher. This is what I feel like, So,
Yeah, that is, you think of it that way where uh yeah, if there's a lot of negative push on don't touch this, don't do that, don't do this, don't do that, then they're going to go their natural behavior is gonna just want to explore it more,
yes.
which could get them in trouble.
Yep.
Oh.
Yeah, and even let them know, if you happen to click on something by mistake, it happens on your phone all the time because you just go to scroll and you've clicked on a link, right? Which is why you should have strong security apps on your mobile phone because it's a mobile computer. You should have antivirus, anti-malware on there. So if you do accidentally click, it'll warn you that you're going to a bad site, just like it would if you're on your laptop, your iPad, your desktop, whatever it is. Um, and you know, make them feel comfortable that even if they did respond to a text, reply to an email, clicked on a link by mistake or whatever, to call you, right? That you're here to help them and to talk them through it and to help fix the situation. And if it's all done with empathy and not trying to judge somebody and make them feel less than, even though that's not your intent, um, sometimes it comes across that way. That will just open up the conversation and make it more enjoyable um, for everyone around.
That's very understandable. What if someone realizes that they have been targeted and they have fallen for a scam? What's the best first step they should take to report it and start beginning recovery? And what resources do you recommend they reach out to right away?
So, if it has anything to do with your financial accounts, um, like you've let somebody, given somebody access to your device, um, you found out that somebody was in your bank, whatever, you're going to want to make sure your financial accounts are locked down. So, immediately, call the bank, make sure all your brokerage accounts, whatever, make sure they're locked down. Tell them you think you've been scammed and you just want to lock down all of the accounts until you can get this reported. There's a bunch of different places to report to, which is one of my pet peeves because it's like, how can we ever get statistics that are close to being accurate? Because some places you can go to the ic3.gov, which is the FBI, and those are the statistics we use. But the Federal Trade Commission at ftc.gov, you can report there too. I think AARP has a place where you can report. Um, there's a lot of different places. You can go to your attorney generals. You can report to your local law enforcement. But if it's identity theft in particular, our suggestion is if you have identity theft coverage through your insurance company or maybe a separate policy that's identity theft, you're going to want to go directly to them because that's what that's for. They are going to walk you through the process to get your identity back and get all this fraudulent credit off of your account. Same thing if you don't have one of those policies, go to the Federal Trade Commission, ftc.gov. They have a specific identity theft reporting place that will walk you through the process and the recovery and all of that. There's also a variety of support groups out there for people that have been victims of scams in general, or maybe particular scams like romance scams, pig butchering scams, the ones that have been around where there have been a lot of victims. They can help as well because it's emotional. Whether you lose money or not, it's emotional. It doesn't, it affects your mental and social and your physical well-being. So seek out a support group and talk to people that have gone through the same thing. You can help them, they can help you. But it is always good to report because if we don't know what's going on, then we don't know how to help people. And you're not the only one that is a victim of this scam. There are hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people that are victims of this same scam, and your information adds another piece to the puzzle to help law enforcement be able to find these people. And then, the attorney general or whoever it is that's then going to prosecute. So it adds information adds a piece to the puzzle.
That is really helpful information, and it's logical because if there are uh ways to put that puzzle together to be able
Mhm.
to stop that particular scam.
Right.
We know other ones are popping up left and right, but
They
if
are.
all the different components from different reporting structures help get that one off the books, shall we say, and not be able to take place anymore or hurt anybody else anymore. That's really, you know, that's really a good thing to be able to help stop a scam.
Yeah.
So Joyce, this has been incredibly valuable. But before we close, can you do me a favor and share how people can reach you and Rose Advocacy if they need help, if they want to report any kind of concern, or if they're looking for additional information?
Yeah, absolutely. So our website is roseadvocacy.org. And our homepage of the website has all of our social media links. We do a weekly radio show on Tuesday mornings at 8 a.m. Pacific time. All of our episodes are up on our YouTube channel. We're actually trying to get more subscribers on our YouTube channel. Um, I think we're on maybe 45 episodes. Some have guests, some don't. Today I did one on online shopping and charity scams because those happen to hit this time of the year a lot. Um, but we do Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram as well. If you scroll down to the bottom of the page, we do the newsletters. So we do one via email. I talked about the Tuesday tip every Tuesday at 9:15 Arizona time. And then you get at the beginning of the month, you get a longer email with a bunch of other information and scams and protection and tips and information about Rose and if we have any events going on and all of that stuff. But we also send a newsletter out in the mail. And so you can sign up for the mailed one. You can sign up for both if you want, right? So that's a great way. You can find some resources on our website. That is one of the things on my to-do list is I'm going to be updating the articles and videos on the resources page. Some of them are dated and want to get some more current information on there. You'll find our events on there. You'll find if you want to make a donation, um, how you can make a donation. You can also sponsor our presentations, right? We through grants, events, donations, and sponsorships helps us be able to do these in-person presentations where we don't have to charge the people that are there. We have a 30-page resource packet, identity theft and cyber safety resource packet that we hand out. And the full presentation usually lasts an hour and a half, 2 hours. But what we've heard from people is, um, I can't sit for 2 hours. So we're actually breaking it down into different sections to where maybe there'll only be an hour or 45 minutes. And so then wherever their community is, a 55 plus community, a independent living, a church, a senior center, they can pick, okay, well, I'm hearing a lot about people having issues with credit cards. Let's do this one, right? And they can set it up and have me out 4 times a year to talk about this. And as I said before, the more information you can gather, the smarter you can become about this. And the more scam prevention becomes a habit where you don't even have to think about it. It's a habit. It just automatically when you're contacted. Um, boy, what are I think that's I say I think because I've been a little under the weather and so my mind hasn't been working as quick as it usually is. Oh, the other thing, it's kind of big. We're going to be launching soon. We're in the final stages of it, but we're going to take our program and we're going to license it out all throughout the United States. So like you guys, for instance, could pay a license fee, and I know you're in multiple states, so the license fee is per state and then you decide on who you want to be trained. You can have as many people as you want. They go through training videos and take quizzes, and then you have access to the store to be able to buy the resource packet, the survey, some other optional items, and then you guys go out as much as you want or as little as you want and provide this information to seniors in your community. So it's a way to get
That
the
is
information
amazing.
out there and to a lot more people.
That is amazing. That
Yeah.
really is. Wow. I appreciate that. And thank you so much, Joyce. This is really essential work that you're doing, and you and your team are really, down in the trenches every day, really. getting this done, and it's very much needed.
Yeah.
Um, to our viewers and listeners, remember awareness is protection.
Hmm.
Staying informed is the best defense against scams targeting older adults.
Hmm.
If you or a loved one needs support, both Caresify Home Care and Rose Advocacy are here to help. Thank you for joining us today on this episode of Caresify Spotlight series, and we'll see you next time. Stay safe, stay empowered, and stay connected.